And a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday the 8th of December and here we are in the beautiful Christchurch, New Zealand for round 7 of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship here at Ruapuna Park. Little known circuit this one, but for those of you that do frequent project cars too, or maybe are watching this from Australasia or potentially even New Zealand, welcome to what is a very challenging, almost perfectly suited touring car track here in Christchurch. It's just over 2 miles in length and a number of very, very tricky corners, some of them very high speed, some of them very, very late into the brakes. And coming into the practice session, looks as though we've got all U82 currently ruling the roost. However, that is worth noting that the console did not set a lap in that one. Also worth mentioning that unfortunately, due to some connection issues, Survivor is no longer going to be able to partake in the championship, and a seat has been offered up to a reserve. And we also see the returning Bruce Law in his BMW, and he'll be looking to try and make an impression once again, as we see old Smokey there absolutely nailing somebody. I'm not sure who that was, but they're long gone. I think it might have been, was it Casey Redwood? It was indeed Casey Redwood's Horbsner, and they're just going to allow the rest of the guys to get out on track. It is currently out laps being set, so it's not going to affect it too much, and it doesn't look as though much damage was done, as we've not seen any returns to the pits. But there we can see old Smokey flashing his competition back onto the track. So let's switch on over with our current champion for the season. Looking and tracking round the console, you can see here the weather around Ruapuna Park is looking pretty grim. We've not got any rain set for the race, but we have got a whole lot of cloud coming over. Not uncommon for this part of the world, despite it being the very start of their summertime over there. Doesn't matter, you can see the moody skies meeting the absolutely epic scenery that surrounds this circuit. So whilst we've got a little bit of time as we wait for the first laps to be set inside this 20-minute qualification session, let's have a little run through what our standings are saying. The console has taken the championship. He won't be able to be beaten. He's on 217 points, but we have got a battle going on right behind, with J46 Dyson currently in second place on 136 points, and Al Axon, beg your pardon, all U82 just 8 points behind on 128. Kovkarl is not too far away from that either. He's only 9 points behind Al Axon, and then Jack de Menzies is only 7 points behind Kovkarl. So big changes can happen in the rundown to the podium positions against the championship, as we see the first lap times coming in. The console is currently in pole position, all U82 in second with Jack de Menzies in third, and then Object sneaking in into fourth position, 1.7 seconds or just shy of it behind the current pole position setter, and that's not a bad time at all around this. Bruce Law as well coming straight in there with a 125.2. Let's have a look over to his Pirelli BMW at the moment. Let's see how he gets around on this next lap. It's probably the perfect opportunity to join around for a full one coming up soon. If you jump into the cockpit of that BMW 1 Series, looks as though he's still trying to get heat into the tyres as well, Bruce Law. So not going to be the fastest lap. You can see him counter steering left and right, just trying to get some heat in. You can see with the vehicle status on the top right hand side of your screen that those tyres are still pretty stone cold. Remember, this BMW is a rear wheel drive, whereas the rest of the field in the Renault Meganes will be front wheel drive, so you will note some difference in tyre temperatures. But then we'll have a little bit of a run through when Bruce Law comes across the start finish line around this Ruapuna Park track. So as I ran through the standings, remember Jack de Menzies in 5th place. T. Scott though and Stoltz, the two South African drivers, not too far away. They could also get themselves up into those final 2 spots for the championship top 3, which is pretty crucial because as it comes into season 1 of 2021, the top 3 drivers from this season will get an automatic place should they want it. Anyway, Bruce Law is now just coming around the Rock Sweeper, which is the final bend around this Ruapuna Park GP circuit. So let's have a little run through about what you can expect to see in the action today. Big long run up, as far as big long run ups go on this circuit. Through the start finish line, you're going to want to keep to the right into the braking zone, into turn 1, which is the Flex Pass corner. Really tricky one, this one. It's almost double apexed on the left hand side. We're going to see plenty of paint exchanges through that. Then you've got a little bit of a sort of slight S on the straight into Icon, and then they're going to go down into this heavy braking area into the hairpin for the Euromark corner. Then another really tricky series of S's here. You want to make sure that you don't go wide on that hairpin, otherwise the race director is going to tell you to slow down. Braking into this one, make sure that you clip that apex, and then you're going to want to hold the inside line into the next corner. This one is a bit of a multi-line. You can go wide and cut back in, or you can do as Bruce Law's just done there and try and clip the inside apex. This is a really quick corner for those who dare. It's just a lift, but you can just add a touch of brake to make sure that you don't lose the rear end, and then braking ever so slightly into this left-hander, which will drag you down into the final corner. Not this time though for Bruce Law, as the rear wheel drive just steps on out onto the grass a little bit, and that is going to be the end of that lap. Let's go and have a look at who else is out on track at the moment. In fact, all drivers out on track, trying to get as much time as they can in with this rather tricky circuit. U82 is currently in pole position though, so TheConsole almost half a second away. Now that's going to be tricky to make up because his initial lap was pretty darn quick. Got J46 Dyson currently in 3rd place. Bruce Law makes up the 2nd row. Old Smokey yet to set a time, but our latest reserve driver currently quite a bit off the pace, unable to set a lap it seems, or at least a hot one, currently 39 seconds away from the pace. Gonna have to try and pick that up. Unsure on the pronunciation, but I will be referring to him as Maze for this race. Looks as though Green Gaming is struggling with it ever so slightly. I think it's a new circuit to a lot of drivers in the bottom half of the field. Let's have a look how this one's looking for the console. The sector times aren't looking too great. Jack de Menzies did put in a pretty quick lap last time, but it's still only enough for 6th place. Sector boards are lighting up this time, and it looks as though Maze has actually put in a really good first sector. Maybe he's getting to grips with this one. He's put in a, well, fair to average middle sector as well. So this could see the latest driver, unfortunately, bagging onto U82's livery. That'll have to be changed for the final race next week, should he be able to make it. Let's have a look at what his sector 3 time is looking like. In fact, it looks as though he's lifted out of this one. He's going to allow, it looks as though U82 currently coming up the rear here. Back on with the console, still unable to eat into the current lead of U82. Look at Kovkarl as well as he makes his way around the track. He's currently ahead of Jack de Menzies on his track position in the number 20. Popular livery, this PCCF. Kovkarl made sure he got his Bagsy on it straight away. He's currently looking alright as well on pace, just over a second away from the pole position. I think tyre management is going to be tricky here on this circuit. There's well, there's a lot of corners stuffed it into a relatively short track, only 2 miles long. You can see there already with Kovkarl, the front right tyre is just starting to heat up, and that's going to increase the wear. Speaking to U82, it looks as though tyre temperatures can get up to around about 120 degrees Celsius, which is pretty well cooking. In the meantime, the console has been able to find that half a second, and he's also improved on it by almost 2/10. He's now the current pole position sitter with a 124.1. It looks as though we might well see the times just dipping into the 124s as this track, now that the overcast clouds have lifted, looks as though it is starting to pick up the pace ever so slightly, and this could be a very interesting final 10 minutes of qualification here before we get into our penultimate round of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. And if you're watching this with hungry eyes, then remember folks, you can join up just in time for Season 1 of 2021. To do that, all you need to do is head on over to www.fluxmotorsport.com and you'll find a link inside there to our Discord channel. Just click on that link. Discord is a completely free bit of software or an app, depending on which device you're using. And once you get through there, we'll take just a few little bits of information from you in our welcome room, and then you'll be greeted into the rest of the community and hopefully be on track with all of the guys that you've been enjoying watching throughout both Season 1 and Season 2 here at Flux. And also, if you like the stuff that we produce, maybe you don't race on a PlayStation 4, but you enjoy the content, then we would appreciate any and all donations that you can make. But the least that we would love for you is just to make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit a like on all of the content that you enjoy watching. Remember, if you want to catch up with any of the action as well that's been throughout this season or the previous season, you can find both seasons' footage on our YouTube channel in dedicated playlists, so you can make sure that you catch up on all of the action. And as a new feature for Season 2 here in 2020, we've also got highlight reels for most of those races as well, put together by TTV Giacomo, who's a bit of a wonder on the video editing. So thank you very much, Giacomo, if you're watching. So 7 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. The battle continues between the console and Olu82. Bruce Law is still in the running. Looks as though he's leapfrogged over J46 Dyson at the moment. Jack de Menzies looks as though he's struggling for pace, not able to get on that second row. And it's going to be a very tricky position indeed coming into the start of this race. If you are in that sort of mid-pack area, it's so common for people to miss out on the braking points, or maybe you get somebody with a rear end stepping out into turn 1, and well, quite frankly, it can be a bit of a shit show on the way out of turn 2. You've got two very quick sequences of corner. Turn 1 is actually just a little kink left, and then it's hard into the braking zone into turn 2, so anything can happen, and it surely will. I'm expecting frantic action, especially in the very start and potentially at the end of this race, as back markers start to be lapped by the lead cars. So let's have a little run through. We can have a look at the back of our pack at the moment with Mays currently in 15th. He's 7 seconds away from the pace at the moment. Old Smokey sitting in the pits, currently looking to try and make some setup adjustments to that car. 4.5 seconds off the pace at the moment. Then Luke Snipes, nice obvious car livery choices. He gets very squirrely there on the exit of that corner. He's in the Hakeen livery. And then Casey Redwood in the Horbston Automotive. They are distinctive once we see the sides of them. Green Gaming has opted for a BMW in the Horbston Automotive. Really tricky car to get set up right, this one, but he's stuck with it throughout the season, and he'll be looking to try and get inside the top 10 at the end of this race if he can. And then over to T. Scott in the 4C Motorsports, along with his teammate Stoltz in the 4C Motorsports, currently sat in the pits at the moment. Object in the red and yellow Momo livery car, opting for a teammate for the since retired Lecky 2000, who suffered with some hardware issues in the middle of the season and forced to retire, but Object is keeping the Momo dream alive. Kovkar we've already seen in the number 20 car, nice distinctive livery, so keep your eyes out for Kovkar. Then TTV Giacomo in the black and green monster livery car, which he is also sharing with J46 Dyson. Jack de Menzies, really obvious car livery in the number 4 Zavima Motorsport. As mentioned, J46 Dyson in the other Monster Energy car in the number 87. Bruce Law, we've already seen him on track, but let's have a look at his yellow and black Pirelli Motorsport BMW. And then all U82 in the number 11 Air Bubbles livery. And then probably the most distinctive car, the one that we've seen most of all season, I suppose, is TheConsole. Our champion in the pink and black Actual Vision. And for those of you that have watched us since the Rubbin Racing days, there must be something about this livery, because we also had a back-to-back-to-back champion in the opposite colour of this one, in the lime green Actual Vision. So I'm pretty sure that TheConsole, should he return to Season 1 of 2021, which I'm pretty sure he'll want to, after this dominating performance, he'll be looking to keep on hold of that. But I wonder if somebody else will take hold of the green Actual Vision and hope it brings them as much luck. So final 3 minutes and 50 seconds of qualification now. TheConsole still out on top, looking to try and get hold of yet another podium spot and the bonus point that will go along with it. Alaxon in second place so far. He'll be looking to try and make some improvements. Looks as though he's currently inside the pit, so I wonder if he's maybe closing that radiator even more, maybe reducing a little bit of tyre pressure or stiffening up that suspension, just to try and find the extra 0.2 of a second that he needs to try and take this this pole position. J46 Dyson hasn't moved positions since he's overtaken Bruce Law into third position, and Bruce Law remains static in fourth at the moment, fighting hard to try and work his way up, but not yet finding it. As ever, let me know your predictions for the race. I'd love to hear from you inside the comments section. Other than that, in 3 minutes we're going to be set for the second to last race of what has been a nail-biting season here around America, where we started off in Bannockbrae, Scotland, then over to America, little whistle-stop tour in the United Arab Emirates, and then over to Australasia for our final 2 races. And if you can't remember the calendar, make sure you set your diaries in for next week. It's going to be an absolute belter around Bathursts Mount Panorama. Don't expect the closed skies, but be sure to keep an eye out on the weather report for what it's going to be Monday at 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock is when we set the times in. We actually take the weather report for Tuesday at 1 o'clock for what the race will be. And if there's going to be any form of rain around Bathurst, it's going to be a real nail-biter. We've got TheConsole reminding our viewers that pink cars go faster and that the green one just had a better driver. For those of you that aren't aware of the driver, it was Demobi. Very, very competent, quick driver, especially inside these touring cars. But TheConsole has picked up the crown for the Actual Vision team, and he's flying it pretty hard. We can see J46 Dyson there just trying to get himself a little bit of clear air, maybe waiting for those tyres to cool down a little bit before he guns it into what will be the final lap of his qualification session. He decides against it though, looks as though it's not gone right, and he returns back to the pit lane. That is going to be all we see of him. He's not going to be able to get out and set another hot lap. Let's have a look at what Bruce Law's doing inside the Pirelli. So Bruce Law, latecomer into this championship. I'm sure that for those of you that watch our championships here at Flux Motorsport, you'll know the name, and he's really getting that BMW singing. He's not had much time to play about with it. I don't know whether or not he had a setup in his bag already for this one, but he's really got it singing and been able to do what a lot of drivers have struggled to do really inside the Beamer. So in the final 15 seconds, Bruce Law currently third on the grid. Is he going to see any movement from this one? We've got Kovkarl in 5th, TTV Giacomo in 6th. Mays has managed to get himself up into 7th place. Great lap from him. It looks as though Jack Demenzies has slipped all the way down into 8th place, just above Object. Few drivers still out on track though, so anything can happen here. Looks as though Bruce unable to match it, so let's have a look over to Kovkarl, who looks as though he's cruising actually. Is he? Is it just the camera angle? Looks as though it might just be the camera angle there. So most drivers have returned to the pits. Looks as though their qualification's done. Green Gaming, Luke Snipes and Kovkarl still out on track at the moment. And the console, speaking from his pit lane, oof, it looks as though Kovkarl is practicing his pit entry. Not a bad idea for those of you that haven't done it, who are out on the track. And it looks as though the rear of that car's, it looks as though it's been shot at, but I'm sure it is just a few scuffs and scrapes. So that is going to be the end of it. We have got Green Gaming out with some percussive adjustments to that BMW. That is certainly not going to help the front aerodynamics. Looks as though Luke Snipes has ended up coming to the pit. So yeah, the console highlighting the fact that he thinks that Bruce Law into turn 1 is going to be a bit of an issue. If this BMW can get away well, it usually gets away very well compared to the Renault Meganes, and you might see a real jump ahead from Bruce Law, but he's going to have to try and get past both the console and All U82, who make up first and second place in the grid. Bruce Law qualifies in 3rd place ahead of J46 Dyson, who closes out the second row. Kovkarl in 5th place with Giacomo in 6th alongside. Good qualification from Giacomo there. Then Mays steps into 7th place ahead of Jack Demenzies with Object in mirror, and Stoltz making up 9th and 10th place. T. Scott ends up sitting in behind his teammate Stoltz ahead of Casey Redwood, and then Green Gaming and Luke Snipes end up on the second to last row ahead of Old Smokey, who's going to be starting this one from the back. So 2 minutes of setup time to get themselves ready, and then we're going to be all eyes into turn 1 for round 7 of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. Let's have another quick run through our drivers and the liveries. The console in the number 8 Actral Vision, All U82 in the number 11 Air Bubbles, Bruce Law in the number 32 Pirelli Motorsport with J46 Dyson in the 87 Monster Energy, Kovkarl in the number 20 PCC F, with TTV Giacomo in the number 86 Monster Energy. Mays has duplicated the number 11 Air Bubbles, and then Jack Demenzies in the number 4 Zavima. Object is in the number 1 Momo livery, and then Stoltz in the 16 4C Motorsport with T. Scott in the number 17 4C Motorsport. You'll be able to notice the different colour wingtips and mirrors to distinguish those two drivers. Casey Redwood in the number 62 Horbsner Automotive, with Green Gaming in the number 27 Horbsner Automotive BMW this time. Luke Snipes in the number 25 Joaquin Motorsport, and then Old Smokey in the number 55 Imochi. So 37 seconds remaining. Are we going to see another dominant performance from the console? Are we going to see All U82 perhaps step on in and snatch it away from the console? Don't forget, the console has had nothing but victories in every race so far this season, so any of these drivers will be desperate to take that stat away from him. Don't forget, the console is a member of the moderator team here at Flux Motorsport, but that only means that people want him to fail more when they're on track. I am sure of it. Here's the lights though. at Ruapuna Park, and away they go. The two McGanns spinning up the rear wheels, but look at the Pirelli of Bruce Law romping it through as expected. I think a little bit too much wheel spin from the front two cars. That might have allowed the back markers in amongst them. Apologies for that terrible choice in camera angle then as we go across. Let's see, looks as though most cars through turn 1 and 2 pretty safely. In fact, the whole field's got through, which is testament to the field ahead of them. Bruce Law continues to remain in first place, and it looks as though everybody's managed to survive the first few corners so far. So TheConsole in second, Olu82 in third with J46 Dyson in fourth. Mays looks as though he's got himself up into fifth place as well, so good running there from the debutant with TTV Giacomo in sixth, Jack Demenzies in seventh, Kovkarl in eighth, and Object in ninth. Looks as though we just had a car go off. I think it might have been Jack Demenzies. Yes, it is. He returns back onto track in 10th position ahead of Green Gaming, and it looks as though it was just a little bit of understeer that sent him away there. Let's focus back onto the leader though. Bruce Law currently being chased by TheConsole. Olu82 not too far behind, but TheConsole's trying to make moves now as we approach the final couple of corners, and Bruce Law ends up spinning it. Catastrophe there. That's going to put him all the way down to the back of the grid, and that is music to TheConsole's ear, but actually it's more music to Olu82, who's since taken the lead. And as we saw from the qualification laps, it looks as though it's going to be hard for TheConsole to try and make gains there. He's currently half a second away, but tragedy from Bruce Law. He now finds himself all the way at the back in 15th position, 4.4 seconds away from his nearest rival. Looks as though somebody had a big wobble there, big lock-up it seemed. I think it might have been Mays in 4th position. But it is Olu82 leading from TheConsole, J46 Dyson in 3rd place, Mays in 4th, TTV Giacomo in 5th, and Kovkarl in 6th. Another big lock-up there from the 4th place of Mays, and it looks as though he's had a bit of a coming together, in fact a double coming together. Who was it with? I think it might have been with TTV Giacomo. He's currently wedged in between two Monster Energy liveries. Whether or not it was J46 Dyson or TTV Giacomo, I'm not sure, but Kovkarl is now piling on the pressure to TTV Giacomo as well, and it looks as though Object started to go a little bit off-road there. He slows down massively coming out of the apex of there. Let's jump in the cockpit of Kovkarl. Let's get a good view of this battle that's ensuing ahead. So Mays there getting a little bit loose on the exit of the second to last corner. Looks as though the two Monster Energies are coming through, but look at Kovkarl absolutely romping it. It looks as though TTV Giacomo and J46 Dyson have perhaps had a bit of a coming together, and that's allowed a few drivers to make their way up on through. Still though, Olu82 is in the lead of this race by 0.7 of a second. Let's have a look at what's going on a little bit further down the running order. We'll flick on over to Casey Redwood, and here's Horbs No Automotive. He's got Luke Snipes in tow with T-Scott and Old Smokey right behind. Oh, and it looks as though T-Scott's gone wild out of that one. That's going to allow Bruce Law to make up at least one place. T-Scott falls all the way back down to the bottom. Luckily, there was nothing there to hit, as the rest of the drivers make their way up through Euromark and into this tricky S section. They're going to brake heavily into Fulton Hogan. Not many overtaking positions through this middle sector, but it does look as though Old Smokey was having a bit of a go there in the Emochi, just on Luke Snipes in the Hakeem. And this is all playing out into Bruce Law's hands in that Pirelli BMW. Will jump on board in the cockpit of Bruce Law at the moment. So that is Old Smokey and Luke Snipes that you see ahead. Luke Snipes there getting a whole load of dirt into that rear tyre. And most cars seeming to run a little bit too wide onto that. That looks as though it was what sent Bruce Law around into lap 2. Let's see if there's any movement to be made here as we jump back again trackside, along with Casey Redwood. So that is Luke Snipes making a move up the inside. He might get that place to stick should he hold his nerve coming into turn 1, which is just coming up now. It looks as though he has got that one sorted. Is he going to make it into the braking of turn 2? Doesn't look as though he is. They've got very, very wild there. And yep, Luke Snipes goes off the course. That's allowed Bruce Law to step on through. And he's now challenging his Curb Clippers teammate with Bruce Law. Bruce Law takes 12th position ahead of him. And it looks as though that might be job done. So it's Old Smoky next in the firing line for Bruce Law as he tries to find some consistency. Let's have a look what's going up for the top three. Mays has come in as a debutant. Rookie driver here, and he's currently holding off Kovkal. Kovkal really twisting the pressure up there. And that is Jack Menzies as well in the back, who's had a pretty good recovery. He'll be eager to try and get in amongst these drivers. His actually current position is higher than his qualification position, which is good to see. He's starting to get some consistency here. So we've got a few comments popping up on the screen. Lucy Axon watching, well, trying not to watch as Al Axon or All You 82 continues to lead this race. He's now got 1.4 seconds ahead of the console, which makes me think that the console made a bit of a mistake there, and it does look as though that was the case. Whereabouts are we? So it looks as though just coming through turn 2, and it is a real tricky one, that flexor pass corner. And looks as though it's caught the console out, and that's allowed just a little bit more of a gap to All You 82, who can see just ahead there in the middle of our screen, just passing over the front now. Just going through the S's. Looks as though Kovkal actually got hit with a slowdown. That's allowed Mays to come on through. Let's have a look at the current penalties. So Mays has got 5 seconds worth of penalties at the moment. That is going to hurt come the end of this race. Kovkal has got 0, so that's going to be interesting. We'll keep our eye on that. Meanwhile, have a look at the vehicle status of the console at the moment. Look at that front right-hand tyre. It's looking pretty yellow as it comes through the middle sector of this Ruapuna Park GP circuit. And that's going to enhance the wear, and eventually that tyre is going to give up should it overheat, and we might see him absolutely lose it. If you do lose it in the middle sector, there's a sneaky little electricity pylon. If you hit that, the damage that you will do to your car will be astronomical. It's going to be a lengthy pit stop. However, looks as though we've got through lap 6 here. The first 8 minutes of this race gone, and nobody's yet in the pits, which is good to see. I think we might have some scheduled pit stops here for tyres, but let's have a look at all of the action that's going on behind these two front runners. So Mays is still holding off Kovkal at the moment. Jack Menzies not too far away with Object just in the rear in 6th position. We've then got a small gap to Stoltz, who's ahead of his teammate at the moment, because T-Scott is 31 seconds away from the leader. T-Scott having an absolute mare after he had that off out of turn 2. And it is so easily done. If you get the braking a little bit wrong, or maybe lose the rear end in the braking into turn 2, you can find yourself a very long way away from the black stuff. Even worse if it spits you out. And a little bit of a bump there from Kovkal as he tries to take that 3rd position from Mays. Looks as though it was just a locational tap, perhaps. It is touring cars after all, but he's going to have to watch that. Doesn't want to apply too much pressure and end up picking up a penalty. But it's a good showing at the moment from Mays, considering the lap times that he was able to put out. In fact, even his lap times now, it looks as though he's holding up all of the grid, and that's maybe just testament to Ruapuna Park and how hard it is to overtake here. But coming out of the straight, let's have a look what they do into the rundown of turn 2, because it looks as though Kovkal is actually getting pretty impatient to try and take this position back as we go on board with Kovkal. See there, pretty wild under braking by Mays. We saw lots of lockups in a few of the previous camera angles that we saw, especially when the group was so well packed up. That's probably where those penalties are coming from as well. Very close to the track limits there. This is the prime one though. As we come into Euromark, this tight hairpin, and overcooks his brake and ends up colliding with Kovkal, or should I say Kovkal ends up colliding with the rear of Mains. That could well have done damage to both of the cars. Let's go back down trackside. This is all playing into Jack Menzies' hand at the moment, in 5th position, looking to try and take this podium away from them. Well, it's been a bit of a mixed bag of a season from TheConsole. If we, as I just bring up his stats, not been able to get a podium. The best he's finished so far has been 4th position. That's been at both the Algarve GP and Daytona Road Course. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. And it was actually round 5 he managed to make up 4th position as well. But it's not going to be coming easily this time as Jack Menzies works his way up into 4th position. And it looks as though, meanwhile, away from our current camera angle, TheConsole is duking it out with All U82. Currently coming into the... just coming into the 2nd sector now. And doesn't look as though we're going to have any overtaking coming through here. I just wonder whether or not it was a slowdown penalty that allowed TheConsole just to make his moves up. I'm sure he'll fill us all in, but it's getting very tasty indeed up at the front, as it is through the rest of the field at the moment. Let's jump back to that battle for 3rd place between Jack Menzies and Mays at the moment. Mays in that number 11 air bubbles ahead of him. Menzies in the number 4 green Zavima that we're currently tracking around. That is TheConsole just popping into your screen as well, not too far away, and he'll be looking to pick up any of the pieces from the battle between these two, as will Object, who's not too far away either in the red and yellow Momo livery, just popping into your screen ever so briefly there. He'll just be coming around this corner. There he is. So with 33 minutes left to go, let's have a look over to our leaders. TheConsole leads ahead of All U82 at the moment. Mains finds himself in 3rd position. Jack Menzies in 4th with TheConsole in 5th. Object in 6th, and then Stoltz and J46 Dyson in 7th and 8th. TTV Giacomo in 9th place, and he's currently being hounded, it seems, by Bruce Law in that BMW. Let's have a look how this one plays out as they go into turn 1. Bruce Law up the inside in the Pirelli. Have to be brave and early into the brakes to make that one work, and it looks as though it's job done there from Bruce Law, or is it? Is he going to get the drive out of turn 2? Looks as though he's just managed to get it hooked up, but did wonder whether or not he was going to maybe just lose out on traction coming out of turn 2. TTV Giacomo is right up there in the mix though, still looking to try and make a nuisance of himself on the rear of that Pirelli BMW. Back over to the battle for 1st position. Looks as though All U82 has been able to close the gap a little bit more, and it all speaks testament to the lap delta that's showing up there. It looks as though All U82 is just managing to pick off little bits in the 2nd sector. However, neither driver able to put in their fastest lap through this one. Does look as though Object actually set the his fastest lap, his green lap time last lap around on lap 9. But just looking at the lap times here, we've got All U82 just making up time in the 2nd and 3rd sector on TheConsole, and that's what's allowing him to just eke ever closer to the rear bumper. It's going to be a huge battle, this one, and it's mainly who can hold the nerve and make the tyres work for them. So TheConsole's tyres have since cooled down. Once we get around this corner, we'll flip over to the statistics of All U82. It looks as though his tyres are working pretty well as well. So it's a bit of a battle of wits. There's Mains in the background with Jack Menzies and TheConsole chasing them up. Look at what's going on here between Stoltz and now Bruce Law. Let's have a look how far away Bruce Law is. Not too far away at all, and you can see he's just made up a little bit of time on TTV Giacomo. So whilst we've got a brief respite, let me in fact, looks as though we've got some action going on there in the rear between Luke and Casey Redwood. That is Green Gaming that spun it around, so he's going to lose out and end up in last place, I believe. Green Gaming, let's have a look, see whether or not he can get ahead of T-Scott. He can't, so Green Gaming falls down to the back of the pack in the other BMW. Back over to the battle for 3rd place, and Jack Menzies even closer now to Mains. Mains just having a little shimmy left to try and adjust his line. That is going to be his one movement, and Jack Menzies breezes through in the end. just got so much more traction, it seems, and it's going to be a pretty easy pick. And is Kovkar also going to pick the pocket of Mains too? Mains runs wide onto that one, but gets it back on track. Doesn't breach the track limits either, so it's going to be a pretty clear run as he absolutely sends it through there. Did well to hold it, and look how much momentum he's been able to make up onto Jack de Menzies, and the green Zavima. He's right back on it, so it's good driving from Mains. He might not be too experienced on this track, but he's certainly making it work here in his debut. And what a touring car race this is. It's pretty tight all the way down to sort of 10th position at the moment, and Kovkar makes his way up through. That is not usually where you see an overtaking move done, but he's got it working. Is he going to be able to hold it? He's going to have to go around the outside here, and a lot of faith put into a new driver. I think he just eases off ever so slightly, decides maybe he can get it done on the next one. This is just building up more and more space for Jack de Menzies, and it's also allowing Object and J46 Dyson to get into the mix. J46 Dyson currently underperforming in his track position. You can see that from his lap times. 125.6 his last lap around. Let's have a look what this lap will be as well. Actually looks as though he's got green sector 1, so it could be a green lap time, this from J46. And it doesn't, slightly off it, but still he's setting quick lap times compared to his competitors on track. So if he can get around these two battling, he might be able to really build up some extra pace and start to pressure Jack de Menzies, who's currently in 3rd position. Back over to our leaders then. TheConsole is continuing to lead the race ahead of All U82, and this looks as though this is going to be going in for the long haul. Just two drivers cat and mousing each other, it seems, trying to get the better of one another. Looks as though both significant others are currently watching the stream as well, so there's plenty of support for both drivers. And just because TheConsole's won the championship does not mean that this rivalry is over. TheConsole will be looking to try and get a clean sweep throughout the championship of 8 wins out of 8 races, and All U82 will be looking to try and secure his first victory of the season and take away that clean sweep from TheConsole. Looks as though we've had our first retirement of the evening as well. Green Gaming has since left the lobby. So down to 14 here with 27 minutes and 30 seconds remaining at Ruapuna Park. He's after running so well, looks as though he's about to lose a couple more places, just managed to catch that. It looks as though Object has moved on through, and so is J46 Dyson. J46 Dyson catching a load of grass there, and oh no! Looks as though Mays gets his braking all sorts of wrong. He's now going to have to wait for Object. That's going to put him under enhanced pressure, as well as Stoltz moves his way through, and Bruce Law is going to be next on it. Good to see Mays there adopting our track etiquette policies by waiting, but it was a bit of a daring move as he now looks up the inside of Stoltz, it seems, and it looks as though he's actually got that one done like a treat. So Stoltz just making a little bit of contact there, maybe not being able to spot the approached and overtaken car of Mays. So Stoltz is now going to come under pressure from Bruce Law. So TheConsole still leading from All U82. However, it does look as though All U82 is closing that gap. Let's have a look as they drag themselves down. Look at that. TheConsole up the inside of the camera, but it's going to be All U82, who looked as though he was looking up the inside of the next corner. He since falls back in line, trying to claim as much of a draft as he can. We'll go on board here then with All U82, and you can look and see for yourselves just how close and competitive this racing is. Make their way through this quick section. They're going to try and drag each other down into the tricky Euro mark hairpin. Both of them replicating one another's line there, opting for the inside just to make sure that we don't get any of those track limit breaches, and then through the S's into Fulton Hogan. There's that pylon that I mentioned before. Don't want to collide with that. I've collided with that far too many times for my liking. Or up into the casino carousel. There is no casino here. I'm just imagining that maybe some illegal craps dice get rolled just against that wall maybe. But yeah, into the absolute send it Southern Salvage S's, and then once they're through, it'll be full throttle all the way down to the rock sweeper. A couple of different lines for this one, but we've seen most drivers opt in for the same late braking, throw it in and try and hug the apex on exit to give you maximum drive out. Looks as though the console's been able to get the better of all your 82 through that lap. Look what's going on further down. Looks as though Mays has had a bit of a nightmare somewhere along the way. He's found himself dropping a couple of extra places, so he was looking super consistent in third place. Looks as though maybe that isn't going to be the case throughout all of this one. So it looks as though we've also got our first pitter, and it is going to be Mays into the pits. This is potentially going to be for some damage repairs, I can believe. Maybe caught the front right hand or left hand tyres. Maybe got a little bit of drivetrain damage, because otherwise, if it's suspension, usually unless it's heavy, you want to stay out. And that car looked pretty straight, really, to pick up some major suspension damage. Have a look at what's going on now in 7th place. Bruce Law currently holding off Stoltz. Gotta say that the Renault Megane is probably better suited to try and get through this S's section, whereas the BMW, provided it can stick on the black stuff, has probably got the drive on the start-finish straight and coming out of turn 2. In fact, anywhere where you see a straight just about to come up to this section as well, you'd expect the BMW just to be able to pull away. Not much difference in horsepower, but it is rear-wheel drive and it should be able to get the power down a lot more effectively. You can just see the rear wanting to step out though, and that is the danger of the BMW. Looks as though Bruce Law using all of the track and then some. W82 is making small gains on the console though. You can see my little cursor there. Just keeping an eye out on that one. It could be where the track position is. You can see that there's plenty of space ahead of these two drivers, with around about 2 seconds ahead to object, and then a further 4 seconds after that. Furthermore, looks as though we've just had a pretty nasty disconnection there. That's brought it down to let's see, 10 drivers remain on track. Looks as though we lost TTV Giacomo, Casey Redwood, and who was the other one? I think it might have been Luke Snipes. It was indeed Luke Snipes. So we're down to 10 here at Ruapuna Park, and not what we want to see, but it's unfortunate indeed. 22 minutes of the race remaining, so they won't pick up any points for this. Meanwhile, Al Axon has since got himself up into first place, and he's battling with the console as he slips back down into second, so they really are trading places here. Gotta wash yourself, really. If we look back on the season that we've had here and focus our attention on all you 82. All you 82 finished in 9th position at Bannock Bray. Nasty one indeed. He wasn't a big fan. Well, I think he's a fan of the track. He just really didn't have a very good race in the rain. Finished 4th in the Algarve GP. Struggled for pace with that one, but still respectable finish. Same again in round 3. Got 4th once again, and then Long Beach suffered massively. Ended up in 12th place. I believe he had a couple of pit stops due to damage through that one. But makes you think, if he was able to just maybe stick out of trouble, what could have been, because you can see the like-for-like pace between these two drivers. It's going to be very exciting indeed as we come into our final race next week for Bathurst. Remember, you'll be able to watch that one live on the YouTube stream as you're watching it now, or you can catch it after the race as well. But we will be live Tuesday from 8 o'clock PM UK time for our final race. Also, if you're looking forward to the next live race here on Flux Motorsport TV, you'll be able to look forward to the GT3s that will come with both myself and the console in the box. That comes same time, 8 p.m. Sunday evening, and it's yet another tricky circuit. I believe it's Road America. I'm just flicking over to the information now. Is indeed. We start to round up the American Tour and the GT3s with a race around the Road America circuit. Have also got some GT1 action going on this week at Sakito on Thursdays. Unfortunately unable to broadcast that one live currently, but we will be uploading it to our YouTube channel as soon as possible. So 19 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. The console leads the race ahead of all you 82 that we've been tracking around the screen. Jack Demenzi is now in a comfortable position in third place. Kovkarl in fourth, and he's got a couple of seconds ahead of J46 Dyson. Does look as though he's got the pace ahead of him as well. Currently rocking a couple of tenths ahead rather consistently there with Kovkarl. Object is not too far away in terms of lap times, but he sits 4 seconds behind J46 Dyson at the moment, and Bruce Law is a further 2 seconds behind that, with Stoltz holding on in there actually ahead of the Pirelli BMW of Bruce Law. Not too far away at all, and let's have a little look over to that one. Wonder if this is down to mistakes maybe being made by Bruce Law on this particular lap, because we can see there the lap times. Bruce Law is lapping a couple of tenths quicker through lap 18 that they're currently on. Let's have a look what happens as they begin lap 19. Let's have a look what that last lap is. Stoltz has actually set his best sector 2 of the day with a 32.8, and as they come across the line, you can see there Stoltz just edging it ever so slightly by a tenth or so in the last lap. So back on over to our leaders, the console leading in the number 8 Actrol Vision. Then we've got the number 11 Air Bubbles of All U82 right behind, less than a second in it, and it's been less than a second for most of this race. Battle of wits, battle of nerves, and a battle of who can maintain their tyres, it seems, here at Ruapuna Park. Does look as though the clouds are just breaking away ever so slightly. We're now down to light cloud. It's been overcast through a lot of this race. That's going to make a slight adjustment into track temperatures. Just going to see a rise in the track temperatures. That's probably going to be beneficial really to try and keep all of these tyres turned on, and that's going to be music to their ears. Looks as though the actual tyre temperatures haven't been a problem for the console. Just makes you wonder whether or not he's easing into it. We might see a big push in the final 10 minutes from both of these drivers. Maybe just going tit for tat at the moment. Bit of a lock up there from All U82 as they go into turn 2 though. Let's flash back to this battle for 7th position. Stoltz still in reach of Bruce Law's Pirelli BMW. Does look as though Bruce Law's been able to gain on Object. Object potentially making a bit of a mistake, and we can see there in the red and yellow Momo car, that's actually J46 Dyson just ahead as well. So J46 Dyson could come under increased pressure, and that'd be very interesting indeed when it comes into the standings for this race. Remember that J46 Dyson is in second place, Al Axon in third place, but there's only 8 points separating second and third. Kovkarl as well is only 9 points behind Al Axon, so All U82. So if we see any major changes within that, it could well be massively beneficial to their championship ending position. But we remain on board with the Pirelli BMW of Bruce Law at the moment, and we see there small gains continuing to be made on J46 Dyson and Object. Object actually having a little look up the inside there. Looks as though he's going to get this move done. We flip over trackside. He's going to hold on to the inside. It's going to be a bit of a drag down into turn 1. Looks as though J46 Dyson has actually got the better of it. Object falls back into the slipstream and tries to make gains, and look how much of a benefit that slipstream looks to be causing. Maybe it's the gear ratio, but they come down through turn 1 into the braking of turn 2. Little lock up there from both Object and Stoltz. Bruce Law runs ever so slightly wide, but these two drivers right on it at the moment. Really pushing hard here for 5th position. J46 Dyson just gets a little bit too much grass, it seems, and that's going to allow Object to maybe make a move up into the braking area, into this tricky hairpin. A little nudge along there from Bruce Law, it seems, in the Pirelli BMW, just to try and help Object get out of that corner, and Object's making a big move there up the inside. In fact, it looks as though J46 Dyson has really lost out to that one. Bruce Law and Stoltz move through into 6th and 7th position behind Object in 5th, so good driving there from Object. Bruce Law and Stoltz picking the pocket of J46 Dyson, who's going to have it all to do in the final 15 minutes of this race. Jump back over to our leaders then. These two continuing to duke it out on the start-finish straight. Looks as though Alaxon there making a bit of a move up the inside into turn 2. It looks as though he's got that one done, and he takes position at the front of this race once again. The console falls back in line. He's only 0.28, maybe 0.3 seconds behind. And he's going to get right up to the rear bumper there, just having a little look into the hairpin, decides against it, maybe looking for the switchback. Holds on to, tries to hold on to the inside line, but misses out a little bit. So this is going to be a nail-biting finish. Lucy Axon and Big Al watching and waiting in the wings just to see who will come out victorious. Looks as though Lucy is going to be able to uncover her eyes with her hands at the moment though, because Al is in the lead. It's only 0.2 of a second though, so it's not much of a lead. Let's jump into the cockpit view of the console. Let's have a look what they do through the final corner. You see any moves being made there. Little lock up on the front left hand side of All You 82's car, and that's allowed the console to really stick on the rear bumper there. Maybe get a draft as you're going to have a look up to the inside. You see him right on the limiter there. Bring up the speed though. Let's have a look. 134, 135-ish miles an hour into the braking zone of turn 2. Riding the curbs there, the console. And looks as though he's come better off it. He's going to be brave to go side by side here. You don't really want to be too wide through that corner. And he thinks better of it. Falls back in line. As they drag themselves up to the hairpin, let's have a look here. So plenty of penalties to speak of. Looks as though Jack Menzies 6 seconds with Object in 6 seconds. And then both Kovkarl and Bruce Law with 1 second's worth of penalty each. These two front runners though, no penalties, so they've kept it pretty clean, and it's maybe been the slowdowns that have allowed them to regain all of the positions. I'm sure we'll hear it from them when they reach Parc Ferme. But at the moment, the console reigns in first place. 182 in second with only half a second in it. 12 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. Does look as though we've got some action going on down into 5th place. We'll have a look over to that one, but at the moment, All You 82 is looking up the inside of the console. He's going to get that move done as well. He's been able to hold that inside line all evening long. It's just whether or not the console is going to be able to drag it down into turn 1. Looks as though he is indeed, so maybe the gear ratio is just set up a little bit finer. In fact, it doesn't look as though he is. Looks as though All You 82 might just be alongside up the inside and into the braking zone once again. They exchange places. Just moving alongside each other, and it does look as though the console used all of the track and got all of the momentum there, able to retain that first place position. We'll look over to 5th place at the moment. Object being pressured now by the Pirelli BMW of Bruce Law. Bruce Law has actually got that move done, I think, up the inside of turn 2. And that's 5th place for Bruce Law. Bruce Law, remember, was taken, he took himself out in lap 2 of this race, found himself all the way back down in 15th position. He's since persevered, got himself back on the black stuff, and I don't think there's been many mistakes since. That's now allowed him to take 5th place, but let's not beat around the bush. He's got Object and Stoltz in very close quarters, and both these cars look pretty happy around this track. So it's going to be a hard fought battle in the final 10 minutes and 35 seconds now of this one. Back over to the leaders though. The console leading to All You 82. Looks as though they've just made it through the back marker of T. Scott. Hopefully Not much momentum lost through there. Looks as though Alexson just decides against that move up the inside like we saw last time around. Did look as though he was going to make it work, but he lost all of the momentum coming out of the exit of turn 2, so he's thought against it, and now look at him holding up the inside. No move up the inside into the hairpin this time. Looks as though he's going to hold it into the S's, maybe just continue to sit in the slipstream, maybe put the pressure on in the final couple of minutes. But you've got to say that that number 8 Actual Vision car looks pretty well poised, and it's barely made a mistake all evening long. As with Alexson or all your 82, neither driver really faltering, and that's why they've been able to get 7.8 seconds ahead of Jack Menzies, even though Jack Menzies is currently lapping quicker by about 0.3. 9 minutes remaining inside this race. The penultimate race of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship, which was decided last week around the Abu Dhabi circuit. I beg your pardon, sorry, the Dubai Autodrome circuit. That's where TheConsole managed to take the championship victory. But this championship far from over. 2 races remaining coming into this evening, lots of points to prove, but it does look as though TheConsole is at least going to take a podium. It's just whether or not it's going to be a 7th victory out of 7 races. A little flashback to the battle for 5th position. The Pirelli BMW of Bruce Law now with a little bit of breathing room ahead of Object and Stoltz. Does look as though Stoltz has lost a lot of pace that lap. Last lap around setting a 1:32.3. It's a nasty lap indeed from the South African. Actual touring car driver over in South Africa. Loves his racing along with his compatriot with T. Scott. I think both of them involved in, I'm assuming it's amateur or semi-professional racing, but I'm sure that they will correct me, and I'll correct myself coming into next week's race. I think that's what the main law was for the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. We've definitely seen improvements from both of them as the season's gone on, perhaps as they've gotten used to the settings that we run here at Flux Motorsport, opting for both realism and the challenge of running with both accelerated tyre wear and performance impacting damage, along with real driving assist. So if the car has it, you can have it, but if you haven't got traction control or ABS inside the car, then I'm afraid it's just you and the machine. So 7 minutes remaining. Looks as though Object is managing to build up some pressure on Bruce Law at the moment. Doesn't look as though he's going to be able to make moves, but Bruce Law just running a little bit deep there. That's going to allow Object to try and have a little bit of a look in that red and yellow Momo. Not going to happen this time around, but you can see that rear end of that BMW just wants to kill Bruce Law every single time he seems to be coming out of any of the high speed corners. A lick of flame there shows that he's right on the limiter just to try and get a little bit of breathing space ahead of Object. It's not happening though. 6 minutes and 15 seconds remaining in a very reduced grid after a heavy disconnection. Midway through this race at the 22-minute mark, almost bang on halfway, we lost 3 drivers in one first group, which we never like to see. Looks as though Alexson or All You 82 has since made a mistake. Unfortunately, TheConsole is now 1.3 seconds, in fact it's even more, nearly 2 seconds now ahead of him. We saw a big mistake there from Object as well. That's probably going to be a time penalty applied out of this one. Let's have a look at our timing boards at the moment. Jack Menzies 6 seconds worth of penalty. Shouldn't affect him at the moment. Kovkar will still take 4th place. Kovkar with a 3-second penalty. And then apart from the top two, all drivers now with a penalty. T-Scott with 8 seconds at the moment. That's going to, well, it would hurt him if there were any cars behind him. Old Smoky with 4 seconds, J46 Dyson 2 seconds, Stoltz with 7 along with Object. So it looks as though Bruce Law is going to be pretty safe from Object due to that 4-second deficit in penalties. So 5 minutes remaining, and it's all eyes really on the front runners of this one. The console has since built up a bit of a gap. You can see there looks to be about 10 or maybe even more, maybe more like 15 car lengths ahead. It just has to kind of bring this one home. We've got Billy Iners on the YouTube channel at the moment saying the console is the GOAT. He certainly is this season, along Billy. The console has been infallible throughout this season. It looks as though he's currently set to make it 7 wins out of 7. I wonder if anybody can stop him going into Bathurst. It's going to be a big grid favourite, Bathurst. Tricky circuit depending on the conditions, but one that's really well suited to a European touring car. And Blankfile has just joined us on the stream as well, our current GT3 championship leader, noticing that he's running in his national colours in the Pirelli BMW. Blankfile, for those of you that haven't seen on the GT3 stream, opting for the Pirelli Z4, gets a lot of stick from his curb clippers sort of friends for the choice of that car. Call it the Noddymobile, but he certainly knows how to make that Noddymobile shift. And remember, you can join both myself and the current leader of this race to find out what's going to go down into the GT3 race around Road America live on Sunday from 8 o'clock UK time, and see if Blankfile is going to be able to perhaps secure his first GT3 championship in the Flux Motorsport colours in his debut season as well. So lap 30's now begun. Looks as though we're going to be able to get in a couple more laps. In fact, we might even be able to get in 3 more laps around this Ruapuna Park circuit. The console leads to All U82 with Jack de Menzies in 3rd, Cov Carl in 4th with Object in 5th, and Bruce Law has since fallen back into 6th position. Stoltz then in 7th, J46 Dyson in 8th place with Old Smoky and T-Scott currently running 9th and 10th. So we can see from the indicator on the left hand side of the screen there, the little exclamation mark shows that U82 is now within 1.5 seconds of the current race leader. So he's making gains and perhaps pushing pretty hard. We can see 0.6 of a difference of the last lap times, and actually there's about 0.6 of a difference through sector 1 through this lap as well. As I look at my telemetry board, sector 2 he's making gains as well by about 0.3 of a second. So U82 starting to pile on the pressure here. Big late surge as we reach the 2-minute marker. There's going to be another 2 laps of this race, I believe, depending on when they cross the start-finish line. I'll keep my eyes peeled on that one, but looks as though there is going to be another 2 laps. So we go into the penultimate lap here at Ruapuna Park's GP circuit. The console leading by 0.7 of a second ahead of All U82. Jack de Menzies in 3rd position, but he's way out of reach from these two. It's a 2-horse race at the moment. All eyes on the pink car and whether or not he can finish ahead of that Air Bubbles liveried number 11 of All U82. And please remember, folks, that we love to see your support. So please be sure to leave a like or a comment if you've enjoyed this video. Also, if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of the races that feature here at Flux Motorsport, be sure to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel to make sure that you don't miss any of our races. Also, if you want to join up and find yourself on the grid racing against these quick drivers, then just head on over to our website, which is www.fluxmotorsport.com. Also, if you'd like to stick some money in the kitty for our prize competition, all of our money gets pushed back into the community here at Flux Motorsport, but we would love your donations. If you enjoy the content that we put out, you'll find the donate button on the website. Just to remind you once again, that website is www.fluxmotorsport.com. But on to pressing matters. Final lap here at Ruapuna Park. Looks as though, was that old Smokey just going way off track there? It looks as though he's just rejoined the track, but I don't know where he was going. He's found himself in 9th position and wants to make sure he keeps it on the black stuff. Doesn't want to pick up too much of a penalty. So the console continues to lead. He's got half a second ahead of All U82. All U82 is going to be pressing pretty hard now, but I'm not sure whether or not it's going to be viable as we jump into the cockpit now of All U82. You can see 0.6 of a difference as they come through the Sector 1 lap time marker. All U82 actually set his best Sector 1 that time around. It looks as though the console is not too far away from his best either. Fastest lap is currently being held by All U82, so there will be a bonus point in it for All U, but that's not to say that this lap is not over. It does look as though the sector times aren't indicating that the console is going to be able to take the fastest lap. As we come around the final bend for the final time, it's going to be the console with 7 victories out of 7 races here in the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. All U82 ends up taking 2nd place, and it looks as though Jack Demenzi is now just coming around the final corner. Going to be a well-fought podium there. He made his way up from the rear of the grid after a big mistake early on in the race. Kovkarl has ended up getting the better of Object. I think Object does have a substantial time penalty as well, which we will check at Parc Ferme. But Kovkarl comes around the line for his 4th place finish, I believe it is, come the end of this one. Object in 5th place, and Bruce Law in the Pirelli BMW ends up saving grace after finding himself down in 15th position early on in this race, up into 5th place. So good outing there for his 2nd time around in a touring car. Stoltz is now the next to come across the line. It looks as though he's going to come across ahead of his teammate, who's 1 lap down in the form of T. Scott. And that is it for the race here at Ruapuna Park. Here's your final grid as we go into it. The console takes the win here at Ruapuna Park, but doesn't manage to get the best lap. That award goes down to All U82, who fought valiantly but only could manage 2nd place in the end. Jack Demenzi is in 3rd place, ahead of Kovkarl in 4th. Bruce Law ends up taking 5th place. That's due to the penalty sustained by Object and Stoltz in the end. J46 Dyson with what I'm sure will be a disappointing 8th place for the Scotsman, but he did finish ahead of Old Smokey in 9th and T. Scott in 10th. The rest of the grid retired or disconnected, so Mays, unfortunate there, retired lap 13. Green Gaming retired in lap 10. So that is all that we've got time for here in tonight's coverage of the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship. Remember that the GT1 race will be around Sakito this week, and then you'll be able to join both myself and tonight's race victory holder in the console as we go into the round 7 of the GT3 Championship, live from Sunday at 8 p.m. Other than that, enjoy your week ahead and take care of one another. We'll see you again very soon here at Flux Motorsport TV. And once again, please hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any of the future action. Thank you everyone, and good night.